Welcome back to the Wizards of Amazon podcast, your weekly blueprint for explosive success. I'm Carlos Alvarez, full-time successful Amazon seller and organizer of the largest Amazon seller meetup group in the world. Let's do this. Welcome to the Wizards of Amazon podcast, where we cover all things private label. My name is Carlos Alvarez, and I will be your host for the show. On today's episode, we have a guest that I have wanted to get on the show for quite some time now, Jim Debetta. Jim's the CEO of We Know Inventing. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yes, it's been a while. We've been trying to connect for, I don't even know how long, but here we are.
Absolutely. Like we were just speaking about a mutual friend, Jason Flegel. I feel like I have to mention him and then give him the link to this episode. When I was explaining my experience in taking brands to big box retailers, he just jumped up. Like, you guys are brothers. And he's like, Jim is the man. Jim is the guy for this. So since then, I think I reached out to you in the car, in the parking lot of that meeting. And finally we're here and I have you on the show.
That's so funny. I'll have to dig him up on social media and tell him about this. It's funny.
Awesome. I read something, and I don't know if I'm going to get this right. And I read that you were like the guy, or like president or VP or something, that had to do with something with one of the sharks on Shark Tank. Like, basically when they secured something and they needed to get it in a store or get it sold, you were the guy they went to for this. Can you fill in the gaps on that? Like, there was a shark, right?
Yeah. That's all true. Yes. On the first couple of seasons of Shark Tank, I'm sure a lot of people remember Kevin Harrington, who is the infomercial king, if you will. I don't know if, I don't want to say it's self-proclaimed. I know Kevin, that's his moniker, so to speak, but he really is. He created and basically that whole category of infomercials, and some of the biggest things that have come out on infomercials, Kevin had his hands in. So he was very successful at it, and he had approached me like when the show was just starting, and he needed somebody to help get products into chain stores, because Kevin's an infomercial guy. He's not a retail guy per se. And he said, Jim, I'm going to be on this show. It's called Shark Tank. I don't know how well it's going to do, but, in case this thing takes off, I'm going to, and, look, here we are, however many seasons it's in, that thing's a phenomenon on TV. And yeah, so he would do a deal or even not do a deal on the show, but then that's half the thing, right? Then those products actually have to get into the stores, whether it was Walgreens to Walmart, whoever else and anybody else. It was my thing to get those products in front of the buyers and get them into the stores. So yeah, truth.
That's a pretty powerful thing, that a shark on the Shark Tank. Like, I just assumed always too, that when a shark, closed a deal, let's say, that they already had everything lined up with all the stores that they know they would get it into. So in this case, there may have been situations where, like, you get it and then this person relied on you to get it in the store.
I think there's a lot of that. I think that none of those things are done preemptively. In other words, there aren't deals made, right? It's like, hey, you do a deal with the shark, and there may be the sharks had relationships with some of the executives at some of these retailers, but the executives don't do the deals. The buyers at the retailers do the deals, right? So when the show ends and everything wraps up, yeah, they've got to get that product manufactured, or they've got to get it sold in, and they need people to do it that know what they're doing. So I was one of those people.
Oh, okay. So you didn't build your network on the show. You brought a Rolodex. I don't know if you use that word anymore. Like, you brought a Rolodex. This is why you were brought on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, and the Rolodex is always building, because buyers come and go, and we've seen a lot of, I can't even remember all the chains that have gone out of business and ones that have come into business. But once you know how to do it, and once you establish a method to reaching these buyers and knowing how to speak to them correctly and doing what they need you to do, they trust you. And I try to go higher up too in the company, because buyers get fired for not performing well. So when the VPs and other people, when a buyer gets replaced, I can go to that higher up and say, hey, Carlos, who's the buyer for sporting goods or whatever? And they will connect me or give me the name, and then I take it from there.
In my newbie experience, though, is I did this caveman, like I was chasing
I was chased, like Walmart was like my thing. Oh, I want to get into Walmart when I first started. And I think I chased around to conferences everywhere because this person supposedly that could do something at Walmart was there, and I never did it. But in addition to knowing what to say, like, how do you get them to, like, it seems like there has to be something there also to have the conversation with you, to return your voicemail or to answer your email.
Yeah, it's funny. I post about this. I'm not a proponent of calling a buyer. They don't answer their phones anyway. I mean, who answers the phone? I mean, I'd say 95% of the things that come to my phone, I let go to voicemail, unless I really know the person, right? Because you get lots of calls and you just can't always respond to them, and who knows what you're going to get on the other end. I think the mistake that a lot of these startups or inventors make is they want to tell the buyer their story, like why they did it and the hardships. And at the end of the day, retail is about making money. It's about profits. And while the buyer may care ultimately about why, at that moment, they can't. They have to worry about what do you have? What kind of margin is in it? Is it ready to go? Is it packaged right? Can it sell? Can it do better than something else I have in the store? It's all business, and it has to be at that point. Now, when you establish a relationship, they may want to say, hey, so how'd you come up with this thing? And then you have that conversation. That's not the lead in. And I think that's what happens with inventors is they get excited. They finally get their shot with the buyer, and they spend 10 minutes explaining why they did it. And that's not what the buyer needs to know. And the buyer's busy, and he or she has to move on and get stuff done. So when I get them, I give them what they want and what they need, which is product specs, information, benefits and features of the product. Here's why you need this. You're missing this, or this is better than what you've got. This is new and improved. That's what they need to hear. And you can make money with this thing, blah, 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 blah. You know, all the things that the things they need to know is what is important to them. And most people don't understand that. And they think they're having a conversation with a friend. And that's not what it needs to be at that point.
So you mentioned inventing or like inventors. Tell me a little bit how you began, like how does one find inventors? Or are they finding you? And also, do you have experience working with e-commerce only brands that are wanting to make the leap from e-com to stores?
Yeah, well, I mean, I had my own startup back in the late 90s. It's scary that it's 2021 already, but I had a sport optics company. So we manufactured and sold binoculars and spotting scopes and handheld magnifiers and anything optical related. And so I learned the business by doing that, by having my own company, going to trade shows, sitting in a booth for 4 days, waiting for buyers to come in. Everyone's saying, no, we'll look at you next year or next time. Getting on planes, begging for appointments. I mean, I did it old school. And after doing that for 10 years and having a nearly $20 million a year business that we built from zero, I took some time off and tried to figure out, well, what's next? And I thought, hey, well, why not teach other people to do what I did, but do it in a lot less time and with a lot less money. And at that time, Facebook and Twitter, this is like 2005, 6, when they were all just coming online. And I went on there and I just set up a profile and I started posting, and I actually had inventor groups, people that were running inventor groups, like local ones, like in New York or Pennsylvania or Texas, wherever. And they would reach out and say, hey, Jim, you know, I got this inventors group. You know, I like what you're posting. Can you post in my group? Or, hey, I've got an inventor in my group and they have a question. Can they reach out to you? And it sort of just blossomed from there. And then I got involved with everything and anything inventing, from like Shark Tank work to being a staff writer for Inventors Digest. I started getting invites to do things because I was one of the few people that was out there telling my story and helping people, but doing it publicly. I mean, there's a lot of people that have invented things or ran a company, but they haven't gone public with that information. I started saying, hey, look, I've done this. I can help you. And it just morphed into a business.
Does inventing, is that synonymous with patents? So like if you're an inventor, you have a patent, or you just came up with an idea and it's not patentable?
They go hand in hand. And so I don't forget, yes, I do work with companies that are e-com companies that want to go, you know, physical, and they want to go into a store. It's a natural progression, even though, like we know, as you know, Amazon is a behemoth. It's a huge entity, and people make tons of money and can make tons of money just selling Amazon alone. I work with clients that do 6 figures, 7 figures a year, selling one little thing on there. It's unbelievable. but they want more, and they know that they can get more by going into the big chain stores who also have big websites and get a lot of traffic. So they just say, hey, look, if we could do 1 million, let's do 10 million.
And did you ever, like, taking it back to the optic binoculars? I have a friend actually, I think worked for Canon or something, and like the division he was in was something like with binoculars or optics or something. Did you ever dabble with Amazon? Did you ever try your hand at Amazon with them?
Yes, actually, it's funny. Years ago, when Amazon was just starting out, they were a book company. That's all they did. They didn't sell anything else. And I remember saying, I should call on this company because we had book lights. And I'm like, oh, they sell books. We should sell them book lights. And at the time, Borders and Barnes & Noble were, all the rage. Amazon was this up and comer. And when they filled out a credit app, I didn't trust that they would pay me well. So I gave them $1,000 credit limit. And when they spent it, I'm like, I'd have my accountant, like my receivables people rather, call them and say, hey, you're at your limit. You need to pay it down before we could ship you again. And now look at who they are, right?
They just had $1 billion a year, I think.
It's like if I was selling them book lights today, right? And then it just changed. It's just like they used to have buyers, like dedicated buyers for every category. And now it's a platform where people put products on it. Like you don't need buyer interaction. You just put your wares up there and you get set up. And of course, there's a lot to it, as you know. But generally speaking, Amazon used to be like a retailer. Now they're their own beast. So it's been interesting.
Okay, so you have experience working with inventors, e-com sellers, your company. We know Inventing. Plus, you're the host of Get Retail Ready podcast. So, like, your stuff when it comes to getting into retail. You also just mentioned 6, 7, and I think you said 8, 6, 7, and 8-figure sellers on Amazon wanting to make that transition or adding retail as an additional channel of sales. What does that look like? And what's the best way to get that done? If somebody hears this and they're like, hey, Jim, like I want to do this. I'm a 6, 7, or 8-figure seller. How do I make this happen? What does that look like?
Yeah, well, I mean, and what exactly happens is people reach out and they say exactly what you're saying. Hey, Jim, I'm doing 80 grand a month. I'm doing 100 grand a month, whatever they're doing on Amazon. I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket, or my sales have been great, but they're dropping a little bit, or I'm seeing a lot of knockoffs. And we know that's being addressed on Amazon as people are learning when they're trying to set up a storefront, so to speak. It's difficult. It used to be like you can be up in there in a minute. Now it takes weeks and weeks to get approved. But they come to me and they say, I want to do more. So I look at their Amazon business just because I want to see what they're selling, what price they're selling at, what their product looks like, how it's packaged, how it's presented on Amazon, because any chain store we sell to, it's going to be on the chain store's website. So can we use those assets, those videos, the copy, the benefits and features, anything they have on there, can we utilize that with the other retailers? But the biggest concern I always have is, well, look, you're selling at X dollars on Amazon. When you go to sell to these chain stores, if Amazon's the lowest price, you might have a problem, because if Target's selling it for 20 and it's on Amazon for 15, where are people going to buy it? They're going to buy it at Amazon. So Target's not going to be happy. So you have to find a way to make everybody happy. And sometimes that means changing your pricing or offering a different version of that product, a different color, a different item number or SKU number or something, so people can't, price check it or Google it, so to speak. And I'm generalizing it for the sake of simplicity. But people come to me and they say, I don't know what to do at retail. I know how to sell on Amazon and I'm doing great, but I'm afraid that if something happens with Amazon, I don't have a business anymore. So I think part of it is fear. And the other part is just probably natural greed. They just want more. They want to make more money, and they know that they can be selling. If they can sell at Amazon, why can't they sell at all these other chain stores? And usually they can. So they want it all, basically.
Sorry, I have myself muted. In addition to the pictures and video and price, in addition to those assets, what else are you looking for? Do you look for things like bestseller ranking? Like, what do you look for on their Amazon listings?
The retailer doesn't necessarily care about that. Some retailers will ask, who are they selling and how well are they doing? The retailer is looking more for brand awareness, and usually those go hand in hand. If you're doing, a couple million on Amazon, you probably have a brand that's recognizable to a degree or is hot, right? Where people are latching onto it. They don't ask about seller rankings. I like to know for my own purposes, I like to see how well they're doing. Is this product really selling well? How many pieces are they doing a month? How many pieces can their factory produce? I'm more looking at those metrics from probably a curiosity standpoint, not so much from hey, the retailer needs to know these things. The retailer just wants to know generally what are they doing and how much of their business is Amazon. And sometimes that's a detriment because if they think that all their business is 100% Amazon, can it translate into their space, on their website? But it usually can translate quite well.
On Amazon, there's an expression, Me Too product. So say somebody decides to launch a blue yoga mat and there's a sea of blue yoga mats, but either they have a yoga studio, they have a great email list, they know marketing, they have achieved a great BSR and sales on blue yoga mats. Since it is a Me Too product, how does that impact anything with you and getting into retail stores?
Well, I guess it depends on the product. I mean, we all go shopping in stores, and for most everything we buy, there's always a lot of choice. So whatever it is that you're shopping for, it could be clothes, shirts, it could be cups, it can be toothbrushes, it could be anything. There's always 3 brands or 5 brands or 7 brands, right? I mean, stores want that. They want the customer to have choice. No retailer just sells one of each type of thing because there's different benefits and features to things, different prices. Some are better or worse or have extra bells and whistles. So when I see something on Amazon and I see that there's 200 other sellers selling the same thing, my first question, as is the retail buyer's question, is, okay, you have a mat, but what makes your mat better, faster, quicker, edgier, more fun, more useful than the other things that are out there? Because the retailer doesn't have unlimited space in their stores, right? They only have so much shelf space. So they can't sell everything. They have to sell things that are unique compared to what they're selling. Otherwise, people aren't going to, if you have 10 of the same blue mats in the store, what's the point, right? Then you just need one blue mat. But if you have 10 blue mats and each one has something different about it and is at a different price point, then that gives the customer choice, right? I mean, like anything we shop for, we're always looking, I wonder if they have one that's less expensive, or I wonder if they have one that's a little bit better than that, right? I mean, we do that naturally. So I think that that's what the retailers need to see, is the difference in it not just being a Me Too product. And you know what, Carlos, if a product wasn't on Amazon, I'd still look at it the same way. So if you come to me and you say, hey, Jim, I just invented this blue mat, I'm going to say, well, what makes your blue mat better than anybody else's?
Sure. Where is this being communicated? Like on an email that you're saying you should get this because it does all these other things, or on the packaging of the product?
Well, I mean, if a product's in a physical store, you can't stand there and talk about it, right? The inventor isn't there. So the packaging better really express what's in the box and why somebody should pick it up. I mean, there's an old saying that you get 6 seconds to capture somebody's attention, and there's all kinds of little sayings like, if someone needs to see your product and stand out from 6 feet away, or else they walk right by it. But if I get attracted to a package and I pick it up, it needs to, like within moments, say what's in that box and why it's awesome. Otherwise, people are going to put it down.
I feel that most e-com sellers, or definitely Amazon sellers, are hesitant to really invest a lot in packaging. In your experience with e-com sellers or Amazon sellers, has this been an issue that you found everything was good, the price was good, and the packaging sucked?
Yeah, I think it's a mistake. People come to me all the time and say, Jim, look, I'm just selling it on Amazon. So I'm shipping it in a cardboard box. I'm like, you wouldn't see Apple or any other brand doing that. Whatever they sell, wherever they sell, it's the same packaging because it's about branding. It's about being consistent. And who knows, maybe that thing you're buying on Amazon isn't for you. It's a gift for somebody. So would you want to get a gift in a brown box or a paper bag? I'd want to get it and it looks nice, especially if it's something aspirational, something that's expensive, like it could be jewelry or clothing or something that's branded. You don't want to look like you're cheap giving a gift to somebody, right? That's why I always say wine is such a tough gift to give to people, because you can go out and buy a $5 bottle of wine, but if somebody knows how much wine is, they're going to think you're cheap. But if somebody doesn't know anything about wine, you can get away with it. But when you get into brands like that, people know, nationally known brands, they would never send their stuff differently. They always are consistent. So I always tell people, make sure your packaging looks good. The perceived value is higher than what's in the box if possible. And I don't care where you're selling it, sell it in the same package. Even if it's a little more costly to ship it, the long-term benefit of being consistent and having a great look to your product and its packaging will pay huge dividends over time.
What about problem areas? Like, what have you seen that most sellers just have the biggest shock or trouble transitioning to when it comes to e-com to retail?
That the amount of layers and steps and things you need to do. I think having sold stuff on Amazon myself, or having helped other people sell on other websites, it's generally pretty simple. The product gets set up. It's virtual. There's no real merchandising to do. There's no in-store anything to worry about. The inventory goes to one place and it gets shipped, whether it's drop shipped. And for people who don't know what that is, that means that you, the product owner, you're going to ship that product to that individual that orders. Or if it's Amazon, it's Amazon's fulfillment center is going to ship it out. With retail, you've got to worry about what the product looks like visually because it's in a store. How big is it? Like you said, the packaging is the first thing you see, not like on e-com where the package is the last thing you see because it's the thing that you're getting after you've paid for it. The pricing, people don't realize that each retailer has different price, tolerances for things. Like Walmart is going to sell something less expensive than Saks Fifth Avenue is going to sell for, even if it's the same thing. When you're on e-com, you generally, most websites, or at least the big ones, are price leaders or low price leaders like in Amazon. When I go shopping, I know that if I want to get a better price, I'm going to go look for it on Amazon. I think a lot of people do that, right? So they're not used to playing the pricing game. They're not used to the packaging stuff. The fulfillment piece is a little bit different. Just the things that all the detail stuff is more magnified when it's in a retail store versus it being just online.
And the orders, have you found like the orders come in a different way? Is there different softwares or insurance or payment? And how does all that fit in?
Well, I mean, it's tough with Amazon because Amazon, as we keep saying, is its own entity. But when you sell to a retail store, like a physical store, they may order 50,000 pieces or 20,000 pieces or 100,000 pieces at a time. You ship it to a few different distribution centers, and then the retailer gets it in the stores and sells it from there. When you do e-com, as you know, Carlos, and I'm not just talking about Amazon, I'm talking about, let's say, Target.com or Walmart.com. Initially, they may ask you to ship from your own warehouse or your house, wherever you have to ship it from. So the orders come in one by one, right? Every time, Joe or Jane Smith orders something from their house, you get an order. And so the software may be different because retailers use different software programs to manage flow and orders and shipping. And so the e-com stuff is generally drips, drip, and it adds up. Big retail physical stores is bulk. You ship in bulk. And now again, I know we can ship to, Amazon, like, fulfillment by Amazon. And it could be, you could ship them a bunch of product and they'll ship it from there. But generally, even the biggest retailers say their websites they want you to drop ship and they'll pay for it. They'll pay for the shipping to the customer. You ship on their account, but it's onesies. But years ago, when I had my optics business, nobody wanted to sell e-com because I'm like, you're going to get 2 orders a week. Who wants that crap? Like you want to sell to the stores. Now people are making fortunes on websites because everyone's shopping online. So the playing field has leveled, but how you handle the business is not any different. An order comes in, however it comes in through software, the order's got to be fulfilled. It's got to be shipped. And then, the product, if it gets to the customer's house, if it gets returned, there's a different way people can walk into a store and return something. When they buy it online, they got to ship it back. But a lot of it's the same. The methodology is the same.
Let's do a little example. Like say I'm selling 25,000 pieces a month of, widget A. and I email you and let you know, like, hey, look, I want to get this in the stores. You look at my product, pricing's right, the assets are good. And this, you land, I don't know, a dream store that wants to order 25,000 units from me. Mm-hmm. I don't have 25,000 units. What I have tied up to keep fulfilling what I have on Amazon. How would that work for me to fulfill that order? Because I want to say yes, but I don't have it on hand right now.
Well, it depends on what the need is. If it's a financial need, a lot of people can't afford to just make a bulk order of 25,000 pieces. Let's say that item's $10. You need to come up with $250,000 to pay your factory to make it. Now, if people don't have the money, there's things called this purchase order financing where you could basically borrow the money at a few points to have somebody pay the factory to make the order, because the retailer is not going to pay you for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days or 120 days, whatever their terms are. And so how do you bridge that gap? So purchase order financiers will pay the factory. And then when the retailer pays, they'll pay the financier first. They take their few points out and then they send you the rest of the money. So that's how that would be handled. But then the second difference would be, well, Carlos, if you need to make 25,000 pieces, can your factory make 25,000 pieces at once? And if they can't, I will connect you to a factory who can do it, likely.
You will?
Yeah, I can, sure.
Okay.
I have to know the one thing, like I said, my specialty is selling to retailers, but I work with people from, hey, I got an idea, all the way through. So I've got wonderful connections from, prototyping, product development, manufacturing, packaging, website development, asset development. I have to patents, trademarks. I have to know these people because people rely on me to guide them and connect them so their product is best situated for success. When it comes full circle back to me and it's ready to sell, that thing better look good, be priced right. It's got to be sharp. It's got to be great. Otherwise, it's not going to sell well.
How about if the factory can make it, but there's a lead time? Like say it's a ceramic product and it's going to take 60 days to make, 30 days on the water. Well, nowadays longer than that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Another month with the clearing the customs and all that there. How is that going to impact your relationship, the brand new relationship that you just put together with the store, or are they okay with that?
Well, the good news is that usually good factories can pump out 6 and 7 figures quantity of products in 30 days if they're not at capacity with other clients. But yes, that's a real worry. But what retailers do, so if a Target or a Walmart says, hey, Carlos, I want your ceramic widget, and it's January 1st, they're going to issue a purchase order, but it may not ship until April or May or June. They don't ask for the product tomorrow afternoon because they have stores and they have to reset those shelves. It's called a planogram. So they look at this. Basically, it looks like a big map of the whole entire store and every aisle and every piece and part. And they go through and they say, what's going to be on every little inch of every shelf? And they can't just change that on a dime, right? They change it a few times a year or seasonally. So if you're selling a ceramic item, even though it may not be seasonal, they're going to plan and they're going to say, hey, Carlos, all right, we love your ceramic widget. It's January. We'll get it slotted in June. And so that gives you all the time in the world to get it made, to get it shipped here. And if you're having any delays, you just let the buyer know. You let me know, and I call up the buyer and say, hey, look, we're running 2 weeks behind. As long as you communicate with them, they're usually okay. They don't want empty shelves, right, on their stores. But as long as you communicate, or they'll ask you right up front, how long is it going to take you to make 25,000 pieces? If you say it's going to take 60 days plus 30 days on the water, then they'll issue the purchase order to ship in 90 days. And they'll keep the current product on the shelf until yours is ready to come in. So that's really not an issue at all. The retailers know that it takes time.
And pricing. How about this? Like, how is pricing set up? Like you mentioned, it could be selling on Amazon for, X price. How do you decide on what you're going to sell your product to the store for?
Well, we both know that when someone sells to Amazon, you're selling direct. So there's no middle person. So I have a widget, it costs me $5 to make. If I'm selling it for $20 on Amazon, I make $15. Now let's forget about Amazon fees and all that stuff. I'm just being straight gross. Now, if I sell to Target, and I pay $5 to get it made the same way I am when I'm selling to Amazon. I got to resell it to Target, who has to then resell it to you. So they're in the middle. Retailers like to make about 50 margin points, or which is basically double your money, 100%. And now it varies, but that's just a general number. So I got to sell it to Target for 10, and they're going to resell it for 20. Now, if I want to keep my price at 20 to match Amazon, if I sell it to Target for 15, Target's going to want to sell it for 30. We have a problem, right? Now it's on Target for 30, and it's on Amazon for 20. No one's going to buy it from Target. They're going to buy it from Amazon. So I have to say to you, Carlos, look, you're making a fortune here selling Amazon. You need to lower your price so we can get in line with what Target may sell it for. So there's some strategy there. Or, hey, you know what? I like your blue ceramic bowl. We're going to offer a pink and green one to Target, and we're not going to sell that one on Amazon. And maybe we'll make it an inch bigger or an inch wider so we can justify an increase in price. There's ways around it. You just got to figure out what those ways are.
Okay, you've mentioned a few things beyond just brokering the relationship, right?
Right.
So your relationship does not end with, hey, I connected you with so-and-so, he's CC'd on this email, you start working with him. What other value are you offering in the relationship after you've structured that?
Well, yeah, after I make I don't make an email introduction, I handle the sale. So if you come to me and say, Jim, I got this ceramic thing, I'm not going to say, Carlos, meet Joe, Joe, meet Carlos. That's not good enough. They don't want to deal with you. You don't know what you're doing, right? Generally speaking. They want to deal with me because it's going to be efficient and fast, and I'll give them what they need. I handle the entire sale, help you get the vendor paperwork filled out, which could be huge and a mess. If you don't know what you're doing, you won't know what to do. I get the purchase orders for you. And then after the purchase orders are in and you get it shipped and it's in the stores, I'm following up with the buyer to see how it's performing. Do you need more? What else can we do? And as any issues come up or any marketing opportunities come up to advertise the product, I'm going to be involved in those conversations. I want to enhance the sale. I don't want to just have it sold. We want it to sell through. So it's one thing to sell them 25,000 pieces. Don't we want them to sell all of those 25,000 pieces so they order another 25,000, or maybe they'll order 125,000 the next time because it's selling so well. So I'm going to talk to the buyer about how to merchandise it best. I'm going to, maybe we'll have the packaging tweaked. I mean, there's lots of conversations and things that go into the after sale, but I want to make sure that it does as well as it can so we can keep selling it and everybody makes money that way.
Wow. I didn't even know. I didn't even know you went that deep into it. So the person really just approaches you, gets this done, and it seems pretty hands off, and they can focus on what they're focusing on in their business. Am I understanding that right?
You're right, which is the manufacturing part and all, and they should be branding and marketing on their own. That's not my job specifically. I can help with those things, but that's what you should be doing. My thing is to sell it and keep selling more of it. And look, I trust myself more than anybody else when it comes to that. So I think I have a better shot than you to get the best out of that deal. So let me do what I do well. And you've done all these other things great. Go do those things. Let's everybody work on what we do best, and let's collectively have a good teamwork mentality here to get it sold.
I don't know of another way to word this question, so correct me on how I'm asking this, but your track record with, you've looked at someone's brand and their products and you've decided, yes, I want to work with you. Like, we can work together. Here are my terms. Everybody says yes. What's your track record of actually getting these people into stores?
Let me preface this by saying this is a losing business, and I hate to be discouraging to people, but the reality is that less than half of things that get presented will ever get picked up. So it's tough. I mean, but I would say for me, at a very 10 things I work with, 4 or 5 will get placed, whether at least in one chain store or major website or multiple ones. That's really good.
I love that. 50%, 40, that's amazing.
Because I know what to do and how to do it. But I think the average for somebody that doesn't know what they're doing is probably like less than 5%. But that's not anybody's fault. I mean, if you don't know, you don't know, right? I mean,
why do you think the other 40 to 50% doesn't work?
It's not always the product. It's the buyer just has something else in the store that's like it, that's doing well. And if I'm a buyer, I'm not going to pull something out that's doing great. I'll say, hey, you know what, Carlos? I've got a vendor. We're selling like something like we're doing really well with it, but stay in touch with me because things change. Or we may just need to supplement that product with something else. And products have short life cycles. 2 to 3 years is average. So once it's in there and something's hot, then it's gone and you come along with the next version of that. So that's a big reason. Other times the buyers are just busy and they just don't get back to you. So it's not that they're saying no, they're just not responding because they're busy. And I've known many buyers for decades, and it takes 10 emails, 2 phone calls, and a text message just to get them to answer once. Can you imagine if you don't know them? They're never answering you because they get 1,000 of those a month. So it's not always the product or its merits. It's just its timing. Sometimes I go to somebody with a Christmas item at Christmas time when they're looking at the next Christmas. So it's just other factors that go into it. It's not just your product stinks, because I won't put a product in front of a buyer that is stinky or crappy, right? It's like, it's got to be priced right. It's got to look good. It's got to actually be quality and all the things I look for, or else I'm not going to embarrass myself and put it in front of a buyer when I know it's a piece of junk. So, but the buyer just may not have a need for it at that time.
You see me grinning over here. I've been grinning ever since I heard the 40-50%. That's an amazing.
I know people don't think it's possible, but it is possible. Look, I've been doing this my whole life. If I can't get that percentage, then something's wrong. Because imagine, again, if somebody's just doing this on their own for the first time, that's why it's discouraging, because most people try it themselves and they wonder why they can't succeed. Well, if I try to go fix my car and take apart the engine, I guarantee you I'm not going to get it back together. So I'm going to fail. I don't care how many YouTube videos I watch. There's just some things that you just can't get from watching a video or reading a book about it. So I think that a lot of it is just experience. I failed a lot when I had my own company for 10 years. I got a lot to know and to learn lessons and how to pitch and what they want and how it works on the inside. And I do it every day. And so I've got a good rhythm of how to get it done.
I want to be respectful of your time. Like, we dropped a lot of awesome information here, but what would you say? I have to ask this, or everyone's going to clobber me afterwards for not asking. Like, what would you say are the top 3 or 4 stores that everybody asks for to get into? And do you have connections to get them in those stores?
Yes. So Target and Walmart are always at the top of the list. Always. And for obvious reasons. They're everywhere. Everyone knows them. Everyone shops in them. Costco is a huge one. And it also depends on the category, right? But Costco is a huge entity. Like Walgreens CVS, they're really big because they don't just sell drugs, they sell everything in there in those stores. Obviously, if you have a sporting goods product, it's going to be an Academy or a Dick's. And yes, I have connections at all of those places. But it's all the big all the big retailers you see, and there's not a ton of them left. They just have become bigger, and that's fine. I'd rather sell a dozen huge retailers than to try to sell 20 mid-sized ones.
I love it. I think that's going to be the little teaser that we grab out of this and use it for the promotion of the episode. That is freaking amazing. Jim, you exceeded all expectations on the show. I'm totally worth the wait having you on the show. Before wrapping up, I wanted to, if you could share best way for people to get a hold of you on this. I'm going to caution you here. You said some things on the show that I get asked about all the time. So this could be hug of death. Like, you're going to get bombarded. So best way to contact you, to work with you.
Well, look, I mean, you can't hide these days anybody, because I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I mean, they go to my website, which is jimdebetta.com. It's my name. It's not, they can find me. People can find you anywhere. It's fine. However people want to come at me, it's good. Just, I don't know. I can't always answer everything immediately because I get a lot of stuff in, but I answer everybody. As long as they're not off the wall or ridiculous, I will answer your emails. I just think I should. So find me how you can.
Absolutely. And your podcast, it's a weekly show, the Get Retail Ready.
Yes, it's a weekly show. We're in season 4, and it's just a great place. If you have a product or want to be in the product business, we talk about everything from selling to retailers to licensing to patents and trademarks to manufacturing, inventing, the mindset of inventing, what to do, what not to do. And we have fun. It's like this, Carlos. It's just back and forth. We're not stuffy. We're just talking about stuff. We have a lot of guests on there. So we have a lot of inventors that have come on and industry guys that come on. Like we said, we're going to have to get you on. I mean, you're the wizard of Amazon. So
I love it.
Talk about a headline. That's an eye catcher right there. So we'll have to get you set up on there because, again, Amazon actually is the thing that people ask me about the most. How do we get on Amazon? What do I do with Amazon? How do I get more sales on Amazon? I get that more than Target or Walmart, but they also want Target and Walmart. So for people to learn how to really do it on Amazon, or even people that come to me and say, Jim, I'm on Amazon, but I can't sell anything. And they need to learn how to amp it up.
Sounds like we need to get together and start an agency or something. Like this sounds like the beginning of something great. That's
a big thing I get a lot. Or I go and look at their Amazon listing and it just looks terrible. And no wonder why they're only selling a piece every 3 weeks. I'm like, they're not running ads. It looks like crap. The assets, everything they have on there, it looks like they don't know what they're doing and they did it themselves. And I'm like, this is where you have to invest a few dollars and get it done right.
You bring up a good point though, and I won't call out any brands, but I've noticed something similar on the reverse. Like my wife drags me into a Walgreens. My wife is the one that introduced me. Like I didn't even know there were shopping carts in Walgreens and CVS until I met her. So she gets a cart. I usually go in there and it's like one thing in and out.
Yeah, you're going because you need something, right? Yeah,
right. Yeah, she gets the cart, and I see some stuff on the shelf, and I'm like, I wonder if they sell online. It's just one thing by itself on the shelf, and I look it up, and it is a horrendous Amazon listing, but it's like at an end cap in the store.
And you're like, so there's got to be something to it. Those buyers do not put things in there for no reason. So, right. And that's the thing. And then you go online because they do it themselves. And I'm like, no, this is wrong. You're going to get your shot at being on Amazon and you're going to look like that. I mean, they don't know. So they try it themselves and they failed. And they do that at retail. They try to call the buyers. They can't get, I've been trying to call Target for a year. Can you help me? Yeah, you could have called me 11 months ago. You'd probably be talking to them already. So the same thing. But I understand because there's a cost to doing it and people want to try to save money and do it themselves. But, look, Carlos, when I'm sick, I go to the doctor. I'm not going to try to fix myself, right? I just go. If I need my taxes done, I call my accountant. I need my car fixed, I call a mechanic. I can't and don't want to know everything about everything. I just want to know what I do well and focus on that and let everybody else do what they do. And that's how it makes the world go around, I think.
And if you want to get retail ready,
come to me. There you go.
Yeah. Before letting you escape from the show, I ask this of everybody. What is your favorite book and why?
All right. So we laughed a little bit about this, so we can say this offline, but I'm not a huge reader. I know people are like, oh, you must read so much. I'm a article, quick consumption guy, but I've read a few books and I like to read nonfiction, things that I can learn from. Like if I want to be entertained, I'll watch a movie. I don't want to read the book. But if I want to learn something, I'll pick up a book and reference it. And there was a book and it's old. It's called Coaching Millions. And it was a book that when I first was getting into this business, like I said, I left my company and I wanted to figure out how I can help people. I'm like, how do I start a business of coaching or consulting? And this book, I don't even remember how I stumbled on it or somebody told me about it, but I have it actually here. And I opened it up right before we got on. And it's like, I must have marked up 100 pages of this thing with notes and arrows and underlines. It was really the basis of how I learned how to start a consulting business. So it was a really useful book for me. And it helped me a lot to help me get situated. I guess it's kind of like if, Carlos, like you or I, if we have a program for how to do Amazon 101 or how to call on buyer, this was my 101 book. And it was really useful to me. Yeah, Coaching Millions. What's her name? Milana Lashinsky. And it was, looks like it's got some accolades on it from, some famous people like Brian Tracy and giving quotes on it. So it was, and it's not a big book, but it was useful to me.
I love it. I'm going to be on Amazon ordering it as soon as we end record here. Jim, you were absolutely amazing. I would be honored to be a guest on your show as well if that ever comes around.
We'll do it.
But
we'll set it up.
Pay attention to the emails. I am positive the feedback I am going to get from the listeners of this episode, they're going to want me to have you back on, and I'd love to have you back on.
Cool. Love it.
All right. Have an awesome one. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Liked what you heard and want to stay connected? Join our Facebook group or find me anywhere on social media at Wizards of Amazon or text the word Amazon to 69922.